Hey guys, son Jetzu here, coming at you with a rebuttal to 15 things that killed Dragon Ball Z. Now, through my travels through YouTube, I go through a lot of videos, and I know a lot of people might not know this about me. Some of you might, but I am a big fan of anime, more specifically the Dragon Ball Z series, and Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball GT was a steaming pile of dog shit, so I will not, I do not like that one. But anyway, yeah. So through my travels, I go through a lot of YouTube videos of Dragon Ball Z, things like that. And I came across this video. It's called 15 Things That Killed Dragon Ball Z. So just my curiosity, I clicked on it. It's made by ManofChrist101, and it was actually really, really good. It had come up with a lot of valid points. Some of them not so valid. Some of them that could be easily explained, but others that were really, really valid. And it's a really, really entertaining video. Really funny. The guy, he's got a lot of passion in his commentaries, and it was very entertaining, like super entertaining. Now I sent him a message on his discussion, I believe, or I sent him a private message. I told him that I disliked the video. I put just like a lot of other people on the actual video itself, but I really thought he came up with some really good points, and it was really entertaining. And because of that, I subscribed to his channel. Um, uh, and I did. I subscribed to his channel. Now I will be putting a link up to his channel here in this. I'll figure out how to put it here in the beginning of the video, and I'll put another just in case you want to watch it before you watch this one. And I'm gonna put one at the end of the video as well, in case you missed the beginning. I'm also gonna put his link inside the description of this video. Yeah. So let me go ahead and just start off here with just a little bit. His points are valid, and this is basically mainly meant for Man of Christ to watch. And I'm gonna go ahead and send it to him. Hopefully he sees it, but this is coming from a perspective of somebody who might even be classified as a fanboy for Dragon Ball Z. Even though you raised a lot of good points on your video, I do have a lot of counterpoints to it that I do want for each single thing that you said that I'm going to bring up in this video. A lot of it you might take, and you might take as not valid enough for you. That's fine. You might not like some of the responses that I have. That's fine as well. But just like your video, I give it a chance, as I give your video a chance, and hopefully you find it sort of entertaining, maybe somewhat enlightening. Odds are probably not, seeing as how seeing as how you made that video pretty clear.
Now, after I did my review of Dragon Ball GT and talked about how horribly that sucked, a lot of people accused me of being a Dragon Ball Z fanboy. And while it's true that I did like Dragon Ball Z significantly more than I liked GT, I did find several flaws in Dragon Ball Z itself. To be perfectly honest with you, I didn't care for Dragon Ball Z too much after about the Trunks saga, because after that it just seemed to devolve into an unrecognizable mess of plot holes. And based on this picture on this front panel here of my presentation, I'm sure many of you can see where I'm going with this. I felt the Buu saga was utter garbage. Now, speaking of sagas, there's a lot of debate within the Dragon Ball Z fan community as to when Akira Toriyama truly intended to end the franchise. Some say he meant to end it in the Buu saga, with Gohan being the one to defeat Majin Buu. Others think he meant to end it in the Cell saga, with Gohan taking his place as hero of the Earth, leaving Goku dead. And then there's others who think that he meant to end it in the Frieza saga, with Goku taking out Frieza and dying a hero. And while there's reasonable arguments for all three of those positions, personally I think it doesn't matter, because good writing is good writing regardless of whether or not you meant to end the series at a certain point, and bad writing is bad writing regardless of when the unintended end is. And I'm here to argue that regardless of when you think the series was meant to end, there were 15 flaws of the series that completely ruined it and turned it from the masterpiece it could have been to an unrecognizable pile of garbage that you just shoved through your eyeballs by watching it. And now I'm going to talk about the 15 things that I thought made the show complete crap. So let's start with the small potatoes. The first problem I had with it was its inconsistent physics. So in the fight between Goku and Vegeta in the Saiyan saga, Vegeta prepares a Gallic gun that is capable of destroying the entire planet. Vegeta even says, "I'm going to blow this planet up." Now, when he's having his beam struggle with Goku, you see that the whole entire Earth is shaking because the energy being released from Goku and Vegeta is capable of destroying the planet. Then later on, in the Cell Saga, you see Cell prepare a Kamehameha wave that is capable of destroying the entire solar system. In the video games, it's called the Solar Kamehameha. So this Kamehameha wave had the ability to destroy the solar system, and he fires it at Gohan, who himself releases an equally powerful Kamehameha, resulting in the same kind of beam struggle that Vegeta and Goku had in the Saiyan Saga. Now here's my problem. Vegeta is much less powerful than Perfect Cell when he's fighting Goku in the Saiyan Saga, yet his beam struggle with Goku manages to vibrate the Earth. But why is it that Cell's Solar Kamehameha wave, the very act of releasing it, doesn't destroy the Earth? You have to think about it. If Gohan and Cell were having a beam struggle, both with energy attacks that were capable of destroying the entire solar system, then why is it that the worst thing that happened was that we got really bad earthquakes and tornadoes on the Earth? This should have at very least destroyed the Earth. Think about it. If I shoot a nuclear warhead at another nuclear warhead and they both detonate in the same space, don't you think that it would at least destroy the land around them? But no, all we get is a giant crater in the ground. And to make matters worse, Vegeta, who is a Super Saiyan 2 during his fight with Fat Boo, releases a final explosion, which is all of the energy that he contained, which himself was more powerful than Cell, or more powerful than himself and Goku during the Saiyan Saga. So he releases an energy attack that he has even more power than is necessary to destroy the solar system, but we don't get the solar system being destroyed. We just get a giant heat dome and a crater in the ground where he once was. What kind of inconsistent physics is that? Now, this whole ability to destroy a planet is very inconsistent throughout the entire series. Think about it. If Super Perfect Cell was able to destroy a solar system with his Kamehameha wave, then shouldn't the very act of Goku powering up into Super Saiyan 3 utterly destroy everything around him? Why does everything just result in the Earth shaking? I feel like it's just lazy writing, but I'm getting ahead of myself here with Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Let's move on, because this is small potatoes.
Number one, the first thing that you said was inconsistent physics for the Dragon Ball Z series, whereas Goku and Vegeta had their power beam struggle in the first season of Dragon Ball Z, and it basically had power enough to destroy the planet, and it just shook the planet a little bit and cracked the planet a little bit and stuff like that, kind of just earthquakes and stuff. And then when Cell and Gohan had their power beam struggle, which was the solar system Kamehameha. It cracked the planet and did kind of the exact same thing. It had tornadoes, and and just a couple tornadoes and stuff like that. And it kind of just when I watched it again, it changed the color of things. It made it like pink, I think, and then clouds were drawn to it and stuff like that. You argued that the whole planet should have been destroyed because of the intensity of the because it was to destroy a planet, to destroy a solar system, but it didn't really destroy the planet just by the release of it. And then you went on to say that, just powering up into Super Saiyan 3 should destroy the planet. Vegeta's final blast, Majin Vegeta's final blast, self-destruction, whatever you want to call it, should have destroyed the planet. Those are all valid points, but I'm going to go ahead and give you my rebuttal to that. The rebuttal to this is that for Dragon Ball Z, I'm not going to just go ahead and say that this is just a cartoon to stop taking it too seriously, but for Dragon Ball Z, you have to believe that they can control their power. You have to, and it's been said many times that they can control their power levels. They can hide their power levels. They can even form their power into, like, I know in the beginning the Kamehameha wave, you can shoot it and you can control where it went, and it could follow your opponent. Like that was for the beginning the beginning Kamehameha wave. You can form spheres, you can form huge balls, you can throw blasts. So you have to believe that these beings can control their power to an extent, to the point where they do not destroy everything around them when they want to power up or shoot Kamehameha waves at each other or what have you. They don't just simply lose control over their power and boom, everything gets destroyed. That's why signature techniques such as Frieza's death bomb or death ball that he shoots into the core, and what's it called, Kid Buu, he had almost the exact same kind of thing where he shot all that massive energy, but it was uncontrollable energy that he shot into the earth, and it destroyed it or destroyed the planet, like, and then that's what would happen. You have to believe that they can control their powers to an extent where if they're shooting beams at each other, they can control to the point where the beams doesn't destroy the whole planet. They can control that that it doesn't do that. Another thing is that the beams are hitting each. For the most part, what you're saying is that the beams are hitting each other. But when they said they're going to destroy the planet with a beam, they have to direct the beam there at the planet directly. They don't just have to have it near the planet. So it doesn't actually destroy the planet. It doesn't unless it hits it directly, and that's kind of every single time they say they're going to destroy the planet, unless it's a ball or if it's a beam, they have to shoot it directly at the actual planet itself, and then it blows up. So just saying that because they're near the two blasts going off, the planet should be destroyed. That's not good enough, because for most of the series, you have to actually throw the ball or throw the energy beam directly at the planet to destroy it. Now, Vegeta's self-sacrifice, he destroys himself to destroy Buu. The actual the actual explosion, he controlled everything. He controlled every single bit of it. He didn't just release everything, sporadically. Because if he would have, I would more than guarantee that he would destroy the planet. Maybe even a couple other planets in its wake, because Vegeta was a strong character at that point, and he was Majin Vegeta at that point. But I have to believe that he can control the blast to only affect Fat Buu in the immediate area. And the only thing I have to go on by this is the fact that when he exploded, instead of a huge blast that just destroyed everything, even like a mushroom cloud or anything like that, it was actually a dome. It was a dome that was a circle, and it kind of like it kept going, it kept going, but it stopped at a certain extent. And I have to believe that Vegeta was still forming it, and by the time he was dead, the beam had done its work and he focused all the energy to Fat Buu, and for me that explains enough to be my rebuttal for number one.
The second problem I had was the inconsistent android physics. Now I want you to think about this. Frieza was a galactic overlord. He was a tyrant. He took over planets. He could destroy planets with the tip of his finger. A normal human would be absolutely no match to Frieza, even in his first form. Now, in Frieza's final form at 100%, he was even able to give Super Saiyan Goku a little bit of trouble during the fight. So, you take a being who at his very best is able to go toe-to-toe with the Super Saiyan for a limited amount of time, you outfit him with cybernetics, and you get a being who gets swatted like a fly by a Super Saiyan. However, you take a weak human, give them cybernetics, and suddenly you have a being that can take out a Super Saiyan and swat him like a fly. What type of inconsistent physics is that? Why is it that when I equip the weaker being with cybernetics, I get an even stronger being, but when I equip the stronger being with cybernetics, I get something that can be slain by a Super Saiyan? You would think that outfitting Frieza with cybernetics would be able to actually have him give a good fight to future Trunks, but instead he just gets cut up like hot butter, whereas you outfit humans with cybernetics and you get something that can batter a Super Saiyan around like it's nothing. So does this mean that there's some sort of rule that the weaker you are, the more powerful cybernetics make you? Does that mean that if I outfit Chaozu with cybernetics, he'll be able to kill Cell with no problems? Or does that mean that if I outfit Oolong with cybernetics, he'll be able to destroy Kid Buu with no trouble? They really needed to get their heads in the game here, because this was terrible, and I feel like such a mistake in writing is inexcusable.
Number two, and this one is android physics. You had said that why is it when you with Frieza, why is it when you put cybernetics on Frieza, you get, if maybe not a weaker being, but you get almost the exact same thing, and then you put cybernetics on humans, and then they're they're a lot stronger. They get really strong. I have a couple things for this. For one thing, Frieza is not an android. For the most part, Android's mostly machine. You can argue that Frieza is mostly machine because he's got machine legs, he had machine arm, he had most of his head machined up. But he was, if anything, he was a cyborg, and they did like they rigged it so poorly that I mean, he basically looked like crap. He retained most of his energy. He might have lost some of his energy, some of his because he was basically dead, almost dead, but he was basically patched up very crudely with the technology that they had, and they just patched them up and they kept him at the exact same power level. They didn't up his power level or anything, and you have to believe that with Frieza, he was basically just a cyborg. He wasn't really an android. An android is a little bit different for me, and for the most part, android means almost the where it's 95% robot and machine, and then the other percent is just human or man or whatever, alien. The androids were created by Dr. Gero to basically wreak havoc, but also because they were supposed to be fuel for Cell. Cell absorbs them, and he becomes even stronger. Now, I'm not going to go into the science of it because obviously it for me doesn't really make too much sense, but it's a kid show, but it doesn't need to make too much sense. But the androids themselves were meant to create something really powerful, so they had to be powerful and kind, meaning that their cyber for some reason or the other, Dr. Gero's cybernetics that he made out of the two humans and made them mostly android, he made them into killing machines, and he had greater technology than Frieza did, or Frieza's dad did when he patched up Frieza. Frieza, it's a cyber the androids were created for a purpose. They were created to be evil, as we're going to get to later on. They were created to be evil, and then they were created for fuel for Cell. So their cybernetics were a lot stronger, and made them a lot tougher, and which speaks volumes into like making actual human characters worth something in the Dragon Ball Z universe at some point, making them androids. Frieza wasn't made into an android, or else he probably would have been 10 times more powerful, probably as strong as Super Saiyan 2 maybe. Frieza was just patched up. He was patched up. They gave him robot legs, they gave him a robot arm, but for the most part they saved his life. If anything, those are medical equipment that was given to him. It wasn't anything to boost his power, and that's really the only thing that I can come up with. The reason why you get the same Frieza and then you get a stronger human when you add cybernetics to human, because they're different in almost every possible way. Besides the fact that they're robotic, and that's my rebuttal for your number two.
Now, the next thing, which I think was an even bigger problem than that, was the fact that Dragon Ball was more action comedy, but when it had action, it actually had good action. In the Tenkaichi Budokai tournaments, it wasn't just whoever is strongest wins. You had to fear good techniques, and though a person did not have the same natural abilities as his opponent, he could make up with it with much training. For example, though Tien was not as naturally gifted as Goku because he wasn't a Saiyan, he was actually able to give Goku a pretty hard time in the Tenkaichi Budokai when they first fought. And Tien actually won that fight, albeit because of luck. But whatever. The point is, in Dragon Ball, you did not just need to be strong, but you needed to have good technique. And they actually had real martial arts in these fights. Jackie Chun was able to go toe-to-toe with Kid Goku for the same reason. You had actual exciting and eventful fights. For example, the time when Goku actually found out the weakness of Tien's multiform and solar flare techniques. I thought that was highly exciting. But what do we get in Dragon Ball Z? We get a bunch of random explosions and a series of transformations. Speaking of transformations,
Number three, you said good technique doesn't pay off, and you use the example as in Dragon Ball where uh, you know, Goku was inherently born with Saiyan skills where he was really just good and strong at fighting, but Tien, Jackie Chun, maybe even General Tao, they all had the ability to go toe to toe with him at some point because they had good technique and they trained really hard and they got stronger and stronger and stronger. But for the most part, they had good technique. They had different techniques, and he had to pass them all to basically to defeat them. Well, I'm gonna go into a couple things here. The first thing is Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are not the same exact show. Dragon Ball was made more for an adventure, martial arts type show, whereas Dragon Ball Z was made for like maybe even like like a I don't know, like Godzilla, destroy the world, superhero, Gundam Wing type audience where like the fate of the world rests on these. Like you can't have martial artists being evil and conducting the end of the world. It doesn't work anymore. Dragon Ball Z from the get-go started out with Vegeta, Raditz, Saiyans coming to the planet. They're super strong. They might not have the best technique, but they are super powerful. Other techniques really don't work on them unless you really wear them down. And they come here to destroy the planet. That's basically it. Just by saying that good technique doesn't pay, that's not 100% correct because throughout the entire Dragon Ball Z series, they are always using technique. They might not be using techniques like martial arts techniques, but they're using techniques that are like Kamehameha. That's like number one. Final Flash, Spirit Bomb, um, uh, Solar Flare, which they've used a lot. Solar Flare they kept from I believe Dragon Ball. Um, what else? They had so many what's it called, solar beam cannon, Masenko. Those might not be martial arts techniques, but those are all power techniques that are different techniques that basically is what Dragon Ball Z is. It's not about martial arts. It's not about who can put somebody in a headlock, things like that. It's all who can make themselves double gangers and you have to fight all of them. It's not like a Naruto based show where technique is the thing of the what you have to beat them. It's whoever's strongest. It's like a superhero show. It's whoever's strongest. They fight, and that's what it is. It's not really just I'm gonna reiterate myself. It's not people fighting each other with techniques that are martial arts techniques, humanly based techniques. It's techniques that destroy planets, destroy powerful beings, power attacks and power beams keep using your ki. And you can say flying is a technique. Flying. There, everyone's flying. Suppressing your energy. Instant transmission is a technique that he uses a lot. So you can't say that techniques don't pay off when techniques do pay off. Kaioken pays off. Like I said, instant transmission gives Goku the edge in a lot of fights because he can transport himself anywhere. And when the evil villains get it, they use it. They have a considerable advantage over the entire universe. So that literally just is my rebuttal for number three. That technique doesn't pay off because it does pay off at the end of the day they all have different techniques. It might not be what you're used to from Dragon Ball, but Dragon Ball Z that's what Dragon Ball Z is. It's not the same. It's not the same thing, which is gonna go with a lot of what I'm saying here, with a lot of the rebuttals that I have. But moving on.
How many forms were there in the Dragon Ball Z franchise? My goodness, you had the Saiyan's normal form, Super Saiyan, Ascended Super Saiyan, Ultra Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Ozaru, all of Frieza's forms, all of Boo's forms, all of Cell's forms, all of Zarbon's forms. Good heavens, on this screen here we have nearly 30 forms for just 5 or 6 people. Why were there so many freaking transformations? Why couldn't they actually focus on having good fights instead of just people transforming all the freaking time? Optimus Prime would faint with jealousy if he saw all the transformations that took place in Dragon Ball Z. They should have called Dragon Ball Z Transformers because there was more transforming that took place in the Transformers franchise.
Transformers. All right, so you said you were talking about the show being you should have been called Transformers because that's basically what happens. Almost everybody in the show transforms into something that's well, everybody besides humans transforms into another form that's a lot higher, something stronger, what have you. Even Piccolo transforms into Kami. Oh, he transforms into Nail Piccolo first, and then he transforms into Kami Piccolo. So yeah, so you have that. Okay, so you're talking about it. There's too many transformations, this and that. For me, the only rebuttal I have for this one is that so what? This actually made the show for me when I was a kid. I love that there was another transformation. There was something. It was almost like how you were talking about how Dragon Ball had. You get stronger, and there's like another level of strongness that you can get next. Next. This is basically like a more like uh, you know, visual, physical thing that could happen once you get stronger. You watch your friend die, Super Saiyan 1. You train really hard and you put your Super Saiyan strength all the way. You get a super Saiyan, I guess it's called, the one where you're like really bulky. If you want speed, if you want like the next level, and you either watch, you go through some experience. I don't know how they didn't really say how Goku and Vegeta got into that level, but Super Saiyan 2, which is like the super energized on crack Super Saiyan. You train really hard in Nether World and this and that. You become Super Saiyan 3 and so on. You transform. You have the Monkey Tail full mode. You transform into Ozaru. I'm saying all these things because it was awesome. You have transformations in Dragon Ball still, but they're a little bit different and they're not as numerous. But you still have transformations. Frieza has to transform into. I mean, it was some of the forms were waste, but he transformed into all the forms because he was still fighting different Z fighters that were strong at certain levels. I mean, it did great to stretch out the Frieza saga, but it was one of the coolest things that happened during the Dragon Ball Z, where everything could transform into something else. The Zarbon transformation was a little bit useless, I believe. The Boo transformations were, some of them were stupid, but but that was one of his main powers, that he could absorb people and transform into them. So I mean, that's just one of those things. He could do that. And then you have, but not everybody could transform. I mean, Cell could transform. He could absorb the different androids, but Cell was kind of like a bug. So I mean, and transformations aren't bugs. So I mean, it's one of those things that you either hated it or you loved it. But for me and for a lot of other people, we love that part of Dragon Ball Z. If Dragon Ball Z without transformations, it's Dragon Ball, and it would have just been boring. So it wouldn't have been as good. So that's my rebuttal for that.
Now, another problem that I had with Dragon Ball Z was I felt like it was a little racist. And I'm not talking Mr. Popo racist, because you can find whatever problems you want with Mr. Popo, but if you think Mr. Popo is racist, then you're just going to have to take problems with every character in Dragon Ball Z, because by that logic I can say that Chi-Chi is racist for Asians, I can say the announcer of tournaments is racist for white people, and so on and so forth. Dragon Ball Z just has colorful depictions of race and ethnicity, but I don't think that makes it overtly a racist show. But the thing I do think is a little racist is the fact that when you get past the Android saga, there are no more useful non-Saiyan characters. The last useful non-Saiyan character was Piccolo when he was a Super Namek fighting against Android 17. But after that, he got his butt whipped by every major villain. And this is a problem I have with the show. Why is it that in order to beat a main villain, you have to be a Saiyan? Why is it that the only useful characters in the Dragon Ball franchise were Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Goten, and Trunks? And Goten and Trunks were only useful in as much as they were able to become Gotenks. But here's my problem. Why do you make it that the way to win a fight is to just be born the right race? I wish that they would have kept with the Dragon Ball format of you can win a fight based on how hard you work regardless of your natural abilities. And that would have made the show a lot better. It would have made it more like Pokemon. I'm not saying to have the same animation style as Pokemon, but here's one thing I did like about Pokemon. You didn't have very many overpowered Pokemon. The plant-type Pokemon did well against the water-type Pokemon. However, the fire-type Pokemon did well against the plant-type Pokemon. You had this sort of rock, paper, scissors relationship where everyone had their strengths, but they also had their weaknesses. It seems like in the Dragon Ball franchise, as far as combat goes, the Saiyans didn't really have any weaknesses. But that's crappy writing. They're only not weak because they were born that way. That's just stupid. Toriyama, you should have kept with the format of Dragon Ball, where hard work pays off, because it would have made for more exciting fights. I would have loved to have seen Piccolo and Tien be more useful in the series later on. They're awesome characters, yet all you get out of Piccolo is chopping Babidi in half, which is pointless because Boo just heals him minutes later, and then you have Tien deflect a blast from Super Boo, which I think actually made Tien pretty awesome, but I would have loved to have seen a Tien be more powerful and him actually give Super Boo a good fight, or to see Piccolo step up and give a good fight. You would have had a more balanced cast, instead of just, I'm a Saiyan, I'm gonna beat you up, I'm a fire in my laser! I feel like just focusing only on the Saiyans really degraded what good writing the show could have had.
Let's see here. Sloppy racism. And he's not talking about Mr. You said you weren't talking about Mr. Popo. You weren't talking about Chi-Chi. You weren't talking about the announcer guy. You were talking about Saiyans being the most powerful beings on the planet. And instead of having good technique, instead of working really hard, it's whatever you're born as, and that's how strong you are. Um, okay, again, I'm gonna go back to that. The Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are not the same because that's what you're comparing it to. Dragon Ball was a lot of techniques, a lot of you can get really strong. Goku and Krillin were almost at the same exact level at one point, and then Goku completely surpassed Krillin and left Krillin in the dust because he's a Saiyan. But even then, even toward the end, he surpassed Krillin, and because he's a Saiyan, he keeps going, 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 going. He fights Tien, fights King Piccolo. He keeps going. He becomes a savior because he gets stronger after every fight. It's part of his bloodline. So you can't say that there's no racism in Dragon Ball. When Dragon Ball has Goku as a little kid, he gets really strong really quick, and that's the way it is, you know. And then he starts out in Dragon Ball Z, he still gets really strong. He dies, but he comes back. He learns techniques from the Netherworld. He comes back. He fights Vegeta. Gets really strong after Vegeta. Even from the get go, the beginning, the first thing that happens in the first episode, guess what happens? Saiyans come, they destroy well, they don't destroy, but yeah, he destroys. Well, he kills the farmer, I think, in the beginning episode, and then he takes Gohan because he wants to fight his brother Goku. You realize in the first episode of Dragon Ball Z that they're Saiyans. He's a Saiyan. That's the reason he can turn into Ozaru, the giant ape. And that's the reason that he's really strong. He gets stronger after every battle. He already transforms into a monkey, which is like which is almost unstoppable, you know. So he's already strong, and that was already still in Dragon Ball. So you can't say that his race had no part in playing how strong he was in Dragon Ball. They just kept going with it in Dragon Ball Z, and at some point, Saiyans were the strongest ones. Like going into the Buu saga, there's no other useful characters besides the Saiyans. I mean, even Dende, well, Dende is useful because he had because of Dragon Ball, so he is useful. Piccolo is useful up to a point. You know, other non, you know, Bulma is useful because her Dragon Radar. Um, you know, just the Kais are useful because of the Batara rings. So you can't say that only the Saiyans weren't. You know, they were the most useful because they're the strongest characters, and it is a little bit I will have to say it is a little bit racist because they are the strongest characters, and only the Saiyans are the strongest characters. But that's the same thing because of even the androids. I would say Cell, he's sort of he's part of a bunch of races, but because he took the best out of all the races, he's really strong. And you know, Boo, maybe he's a race. I don't know if he's a race, but he's super strong because he's that race. Even Frieza's super strong because he's that particular race. So yes, there is racism, but it's not just the Saiyans. There are other ones that are the same too, like all the like the villains. Even though the Namekians are stronger than the humans are relatively the weakest ones in the whole show. And because most of the show takes place on Earth, you think that only the Saiyans are the strongest, but that's not true. There is racism, but it's not just the Saiyans in Dragon Ball Z.
Now, speaking of the fight with Majin Buu, if I were to walk up to someone and say, there is a villain in Dragon Ball Z who gets stronger through absorbing his opponents, who knows all the techniques of the Z fighters, who fights Gohan in his new transformation, but Gohan goes easy on him instead of killing him right away, resulting in the death of Trunks, and Vegeta has to distract this villain while the hero lands the killing blow, completely vaporizing this villain. Oh, and did I mention that this villain can regenerate? Who am I talking about? Cell, right? I'm also talking about Majin Buu. Because when you think about it, Majin Buu is a complete ripoff of Cell. So all Toriyama did was write in the same villain twice. All he did was take Cell, put him in a blender, put some pink cotton candy in that blender, press the high button, spin it around real fast, serve it in a bowl, and give it to you and call it Majin Buu. It literally took no effort on Toriyama's part to write the character of Majin Buu because he was just a ripoff of Cell. Oh, and just to add icing on the cake, both Cell and Majin Buu experience a time where they have to release a person they previously absorbed and revert back to a form that they once occupied, only to come back good as new and kill more people. So literally, Boo is just a Cell ripoff, and I'm thinking that's just weak writing. Give us a good villain. Come on, please give us a good villain. This is just recapitulated garbage.
And this one's going to be a little harder to have a rebuttal for, but I have one. Don't worry, I got you. I got you. You said Boo, the Cell ripoff. Okay. As a fan of Dragon Ball Z, I have to admit when there are things that are sloppy writing, and I have to agree with you a little bit on that. Boo is completely a Cell ripoff, basically. But here, I'm going to explain why. I'm gonna give you a couple explanations. The first one is, as just like me and a couple other DBZ fans that I know, we all believe that Dragon Ball Z was supposed to end at the end of the Cell Saga. Goku dies, Gohan takes his place. Even then, after Goku still remains dead, and Gohan should have just been the savior, and then it should have been passed down after Gohan to Pan maybe or something. It should have just kept going. I believe that. When I was a kid, I thought that Cell was going to be the last fight they were going to have. I never thought they were going to come out with Boo. I feel like Akira Toriyama, he had a lot of pressure to keep going. And in a short, relatively short period of time, he came out with a new season, and he had to rush a lot of things, but one of the things he rushed was probably the villain and what the story was, and the villain Boo is very similar, if not completely similar to Cell. But here, I'm going to tell you what I believe. I believe that Akira Toriyama, when he was creating the next villain, he had a huge, like tremendously huge gap to big pedestal to surpass. Cell was basically a Saiyan, but he had Namekian blood, so he can regenerate. He had Vegeta. He had Frieza's abilities, living in space. All their moves basically. So Cell was almost like the top. That's why everyone thought, including myself, thought that was going to be the it, because Cell was the strongest. And the Cell saga went from the Ender saga went off for like two seasons, two series, 2 seasons already. Like it was like a big long saga. It's longer than it was almost as long as the Frieza saga. And nobody thought I didn't think there was going to be a Buu saga afterward. But I digress. Cell, he had to surpass Cell, and how can you surpass Cell? Like you can't. You can't surpass a being that can regenerate, knows all the Sea Fighters moves, can absorb them, which Cell really couldn't absorb all the Z Fighters. He could kill people by eating them, but he could really only to get stronger. He only had to absorb Android 17 and 18. What Akira Toriyama did, he made Boo, pure evil. He made Boo basically stupid and uncontrollable. He made Boo as strong, one of the strongest beings that they had ever basically been in Dragon Ball Z. He made Boo absorb people. He didn't have to just absorb a couple people. He could absorb anybody, and he can take on all their characteristics, all their strength, everything. Boo can live anywhere, and he knows all their like I said, he knows all their abilities. So now I'm just repeating myself. So Boo is basically Cell, but he's like Cell 2.0. He's a lot stronger than Cell. He's faster than Cell. But like once you get from Cell, where can you go where a villain's gonna be strong or as strong? Without having those abilities, without having regeneration like Boo does, without having absorption, without having transformations, which I'm gonna go into, like you can't get past that. So I do agree that Boo basically is Cell, but better. But yeah, and you could say that that's lazy writing, and it might possibly be, but by the point where you get to Cell, you can't really get anything past Cell without having all of Cell's attributes included, and then include everything, and then just change them up a little bit and make them stronger, like in a different way, give them different advantages. So that's basically my thing. That's my rebuttal. That basically, it could have been sloppy writing, but I'm thinking that it was more that you can't really go. Cell was perfect. Perfect Cell was perfect. Super strong. You can't get past that without having almost the exact same attributes that at least Cell had, and put him in the next villain. Because the Z Fighters, I mean, what are they gonna face? And Boo basically wiped the floor with almost all of them at some point. So yeah, that's my rebuttal for number 5.
And speaking of Boo's recapitulated garbage, I take great issue with the lack of logic in the absorptions of Majin Buu. So here is how the absorptions of Majin Buu went. Good Buu was separate from Evil Buu after Fat Buu split up, and Evil Buu ate and absorbed the Good Buu and became Super Buu. Super Buu then went on to kill a person, and then he was about to kill Hercule when he stopped and hesitated. He hesitated to kill Hercule because he had the good Buu inside of him, and the good Buu loved Hercule. So this made me think, okay, not only does Majin Buu take the strengths and abilities of the person he absorbs, right? But he also absorbs a piece of their psychological profile, which I guess makes sense, because if you absorb a person, you absorb all of them, kind of like Rogue from the X-Men. She not only absorbs their abilities, but absorbs their mind. But I digress. If Majin Buu absorbs the psyche of the person as well as their abilities, then explain me this. Super Buu hesitated to hurt Hercule because he had the good Buu inside of him who loved Hercule, right? Well, when Super Buu absorbed Goten, Trunks, and Piccolo, why the heck was he able to continue to fight Gohan? Goten, Trunks, and Piccolo all loved Gohan and had some sort of familial relationship with Gohan, so you would think that if absorbing one person that loves Hercule is enough for Super Buu to hesitate in a fight against Hercule, then shouldn't absorbing 3 people that love Gohan be enough to make Super Buu absolutely love Gohan as a friend, as a brother, as a son, and completely just want to be friends with him? But why was he able to continue and fight? Is Buu selective over what qualities from them he gets to take? Because if so, I think that's just crappy writing. Toriyama, did you even try to write a good story here? To make matters worse, when Majin Buu absorbs Vegito, Vegito splits back up into Goku and Vegeta inside of Majin Buu's body. Now, a lot of fans give the explanation of, well, it's because Majin Buu was created from Majin magic, and Majin magic counteracts Kai magic, thus Kai magic doesn't work on Majin Buu. And so, okay, that makes sense for splitting Goku and Vegeta back up, given the Potara fusion, because the Potara fusion is Kai magic. So, okay, I'm willing to buy that. But what I'm not willing to buy is, if Kai magic doesn't work on Majin Buu, then why the heck was he able to get killed by the Spirit Bomb, which is a Kai technique? Toriyama, did you even try? I'm gonna try to calm down.
Boo's inconsistent absorption rules. You were talking about the absorption that happens with Boo, where he absorbed the fat Boo, and then he couldn't hurt Hercule, and then he absorbed Piccolo and Goku and Gotenks, and he couldn't basically he still beat the crap out of Gohan. And then you talked about how when he absorbed Vegito split up, and he split up inside Boo, and that's why you have that whole, which was one of my least favorite parts, when they're running around inside Boo, and then you go with the Kai magic doesn't work on Majin Buu magic. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and say a couple things here. The inconsistencies with the absorption rules of Boo, I believe anyway, is that Boo, the only reason he couldn't attack Hercule was because Majin Buu basically absorbed himself, and so seeing as how Fat Buu is part of Majin Buu altogether, he had some level or leverage of level of control over what Boo did and his actions, which is different from when Boo absorbed. Even though they're in the same pods, when Boo absorbed the Z Fighters, they had no level of control over what Boo did. Boo had all the control over them, and this goes with them being able to him being able to talk kind of like as eloquent as Piccolo, and him having all the gear and all the look of Gotenks. So that being said, for me it just means that Fat Boo can control himself when Boo is controlling himself, as opposed to when Boo absorbs a Z Fighter. The Z Fighter has, or somebody, they have no level of control over what Boo does, and that's basically it. As far as the breakup and Majin magic doesn't work on Kai magic, things like that, I believe that, and you said that because Majin magic doesn't work on Kai, or Kai magic doesn't work on Majin magic. That's the reason that was one of the reasons why they split up. But you said that because the Spirit Bomb is Kai magic and destroys Boo, that makes no sense because of the fact that they're both Kai magics and because it's a Kai technique. But the only thing I have to say to that is that yes, it's a Kai technique. It was learned by a Kai, the King Kai, but it is not magic, and that's the whole point. Kai magic with the Botara earrings is magic by fusing two people. It's not a technique. It's just fusing two people that are separate. It can fuse anybody together. So it would make sense that it wouldn't work on Majin magic when Majin Buu was basically created by magic. But a Kai technique that is super powerful that could destroy Majin Buu. That's just a technique. That would be like, I mean, the reason why the Kais didn't defeat Majin Buu isn't because their beams and attacks didn't work on Majin Buu. It's because they weren't even close to the level of strength that they needed to be to destroy Majin Buu. That was the only reason. It wasn't because their Kai magic, because their Kai techniques didn't work on him, because he was Majin. Only Kai magic can't affect Majin magic. It's all about magic. Magic is different than Kai, than Ki, and techniques, and that's my rebuttal for that.
Now, the next problem I had that I thought absolutely ruined the story of Dragon Ball Z was that the villains didn't really have good backstories. In Dragon Ball, we see Mercenary Tao, we see the Crane Hermit, we see Tien and Chaozu back when they were bad guys. We even get a nice good backstory for King Piccolo, so we get to see the motivations of these characters and what makes them tick, what makes them think the way they do, what their goals were. For Majin Buu and for Cell, there was literally no backstory, well, unless you count a stupid flashback that Supreme Kai has. But the point I'm trying to make is, these villains were evil just because they were made to be evil. Cell was created by Dr. Gero to be evil. The androids were created by Dr. Gero to terrorize. Majin Buu was created by Bibidi to terrorize. But other than that, they really had no genuine backstories, so we really didn't get to empathize with the struggle that they were having, other than on a general level of good guys and bad guys beat each other up level. The last Dragon Ball Z villain that we truly got a backstory from was Vegeta, because when he's dying at the hands of Frieza, he gets to explain that I was once a kid, and Frieza made me this way. I was his slave. He made me intimidated, so I became strong to survive, and only the strongest should survive. Vegeta actually got a backstory, which was the last time a villain actually got a good backstory. Even Frieza's backstory was a little lacking. He's a pink guy with horns that goes around blowing things up. Who gives a crap? Not a good story.
You stated that DBZ villains have no backstories, and I have a rebuttal for you. Now, DBZ villains, okay, so you have Vegeta, you have Raditz, you have Vegeta, you have Frieza, you have Cell, well, the androids, then you have Cell, then you have all the Boos. Alright. I believe, and you can hear me out, that the villains didn't have any backstories, and this is the thing. You try to compare it to Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball, all the villains have backstories, because it was just Goku fighting all the villains, and it was like Goku, and you already knew Goku. You had to learn about the villain to care about him, and then you fight him. The thing that made DBZ villains so scary, so diabolical, so destructive was because they were almost a mystery unto themselves. You knew what their motivations were. Vegeta wanted the Dragon Balls. Frieza wanted the Dragon Balls. Cell wanted to be perfect, and Majin Buu, he wanted cake and ice cream, and then he just wanted to play, and then he still wanted us to play. So you knew their motivations of why they were doing the things that they were doing. But I really do believe, and hear me out, I really do believe, for one thing, that Akira Toriyama only meant for Vegeta to have a backstory because and this is the reason, because he became a Z fighter. He became a friend to the Dragon Ball Z to Dragon Ball Z fighters, and he was in the rest of the story. He went from the bad side to the good side. He was pivotal to the Frieza saga of why, because of Frieza's past and the Saiyan's past, and he connected Goku to that part of his past. Now, when you get to Frieza, I don't know anything. You don't know shit about Frieza. The reason? Because that's scarier. Because Frieza, because you don't want to, when you have backstories to the villains, like in Dragon Ball, it humanizes them. It humanized King Piccolo. It humanized Tien. It humanized General Tao. But for Dragon Ball, and it wasn't that. It was more for kid oriented. But for Dragon Ball Z, the Dragon Ball villains didn't need to have backstory because they were strong and they were powerful and they were evil, and that made them scarier without knowing what their past was, if they were ever good in the past, which obviously probably not. Frieza's backstories, we can only speculate that. I mean, if we take the Cooler movie to be true, he had brother with his name was Cooler. He probably was spoiled child maybe by his dad. Probably no mom in the picture. He inherited the throne. He became evil. Cooler didn't inherit the throne because Cooler wasn't the next heir or something, which is weird because Cooler seems like he'd be the older one. You could have all that with the androids. I kind of wish that they gave 18 a little bit more of a backstory because she did also become a Z fighter, but they didn't. They didn't give her more of a backstory because for one thing there was no room for it, because she wasn't like a main Z fighter like Vegeta was, and number two because most of her backstory would have been very, oh my god, what's that word I'm looking for? Very dark and probably pretty gross in the Dragon Ball Z universe, because to think how Dr. Gero got two human bodies to make almost 95% android, and then a brother and a sister, unless they're not related by blood, but which it looks like they are because they look like twins. I don't want to hear that story. I do not want to see that saga because even as a kid, you're just like, I just want the main family, Goku's family, Vegeta's family. That's it. Even if we came to Android 18's past, it was probably really gross and pretty gruesome, and he probably dug her up from a fucking grave, and that's something that it wasn't needed in Dragon Ball Z. She was good now. She has a daughter, and her actions speak louder than her past, I guess. So, yeah. Then you have Cell. You did get Cell's past. That's the thing. Even in the story of Trunks, you got why Cell came from Trunks' time to our time because the androids Trunks had already destroyed the androids. So, but you still get Cell's past. He was a little larva. He became a big larva. He became first stage Cell, became second stage Cell, became last stage Cell, became perfect Cell. He really doesn't have that much of a story besides his programming. There were machines. He was programmed to eat his androids, kill everybody, and that's it. Become a killing machine. That's all he was programmed for. So you did get his backstory. Boo. You get some of his backstory. You get he was Kid Buu. He fought the Kais. Bibbidi, he created him. That's about it. So the last two villains were created by evil scientists just for evil purposes, and that's about it. And that's what makes them really terrifying. You don't want a human. Giving them backstories humanizes them to the point where they could turn over to the good side, like Vegeta did. And seeing as Vegeta is the only one who has a backstory, and he turned to the good side. I must assume that that's what Kira Toriyama wanted to do. He only wanted to have the ones who had backstories be in the good sides, and then whoever was pure evil like Frieza, Cell, and Buu, not have backstories because they're just monsters. He wanted just to protect. That is my rebuttal to the DBZ villains have no backstories.
Moving on. Speaking of Vegeta's backstory, I felt like they totally dropped the ball with the Majin Vegeta character. Now, if you ask me, Majin Vegeta was just a stupid plot excuse to drag out the amount of time the Buu saga took. Because when you think about it, Majin Vegeta has no real motivation to be Majin Vegeta. Now, I know a lot of you can probably say something to the tune of, well, Vegeta always wanted to be the best, and knowing that Goku was always one step ahead of him made him feel bad, but wrap your mind around this. Goku's freaking dead. Goku came back for a day, sure, but Goku's freaking dead, meaning that at that point, Vegeta was the strongest Saiyan alive and the strongest man alive, so wouldn't that actually be a restoration of his broken pride, knowing that he got to outlive his greatest rival? Now, a lot of people like to point to Vegeta's motivation in the speech that he gave to Supreme Kai. So when Supreme Kai was giving this speech about you two are quarreling over some meaningless squabble back when Babidi transported Majin Vegeta and Goku back to the World Tournament, and Vegeta has this freaking panic attack. He goes, "What do you know of the word meaningless? Try living your life as another slave. Try watching your race dwindle down to a handful and tell me what you know of meaningless." When if you actually look at Vegeta's actions and behavior, he contradicts everything he just said in that speech. He talks about try living your life under the rule of another. He's obviously not over Frieza's death, but freaking get over it, Vegeta. Frieza's been dead for 10 years. Not only that, but your own son, your own flesh and blood, was able to avenge you by killing Frieza. You would think that in an honor culture, if your son takes out your greatest enemy, that would be a badge of honor, and that you would feel your sense of honor and restoration in place. Because basically, Frieza had a blood feud against the Saiyans, and the Saiyans had a blood feud against Frieza, which is why a Saiyan being the one to take out Frieza was so darn pivotal. But it was Vegeta's own son who took out Frieza. Not only this, but Vegeta became the legendary status of Super Saiyan. Not only that, but his son was a Super Saiyan. So you would think when you factor all of this in, he has more reasons to feel proud than he does to feel ashamed. So he's really just whining here. He has no true motivation to be Majin Vegeta. Not only that, but he talks about watch your race dwindle down to a handful. And he's always talking about Saiyan pride this and Saiyan pride that, Saiyan honor this and Saiyan honor that. Well, I would believe that Vegeta cared about Saiyan honor if he wasn't trying to kill every other Saiyan that he met. Seriously, you would think that Vegeta hates Saiyans just as much as Frieza does. Think about it. When he first met Goku, he tried to kill him. When he first met Gohan, he tried to kill him. He killed his personal assistant Nappa, and I doubt he gave two craps whatever happened to Raditz. So when you really think about it, how can Vegeta be this character that has such Saiyan honor if he's trying to kill every other Saiyan around him? You would think that if he had Saiyan honor, he would be like, well, there's only a few of us left, let's preserve the Saiyan race, let's form our own empire, let's mate, let's replenish the Saiyan population. But he almost tries to do the opposite. So I really don't buy that Vegeta has Saiyan honor, and I feel like Toriyama really dropped the ball with this point. Now, talking about dropping the ball on points.
Majin Vegeta, midlife crisis Vegeta. Now you were saying, you were saying that Majin Vegeta has no drive to be Majin Vegeta. He has no pulse to be Majin Vegeta, to be evil, because and then you gave us a whole bunch of different examples, as in like in that little tiny scene where Vegeta is yelling at Goku and yelling at Supreme Kai. He's saying that, try living under the boot of another, try being a slave, watch your days dwindle to a handful, this and that. Okay, so I'm gonna go and explain each different thing. Now, Vegeta is one of the most complex characters in Dragon Ball Z, because he was a bad guy and now he's a good guy. He committed mass genocide. Now he's got a loving family that he can't really look in the eye because he committed horrible genocide. Now he's a good guy. And he knows he's not a good guy at heart, and that's kind of what drives Majin Vegeta, because he knows he's not a good guy at heart because he committed mass genocide. God knows what, or nobody knows what Frieza did to the poor guy when he was in captivity. Nobody knows that. He could have done horrible things to him. So he could be traumatized from that. And even 10 years later, look at most traumatized victims with post-traumatic stress disorder. They don't get over it, and he obviously hasn't gotten over it. Still, watch your waist dwindle to a handful. You say that he fights, he hates. It's almost like he hates. And I'm gonna get to this. This probably covers a couple other things, but he hates Saiyans as much as Frieza did, because he fights every single one he meets. Okay, I would believe that if I have to believe that, but I have to believe that Vegeta can't change his primal nature because he's a pure Saiyan. Saiyans, look at the Saiyans. Look at how they work. Vegeta kills Nappa with no regard. Raditz is about to kill his nephew. That he kills, he tries to kill his brother. No regard. In most of the Bardock movie, they're basically, they hate Frieza, but they seem like at any moment they could kill each other. Saiyans are not a good people, a good race. He's probably more pissed off at the fact that he can't fight multiple Saiyans than to like recuperate and be like, all right guys, let's get our Saiyan race back to where it needs to be and start reproducing again. No, he wants and this goes into Goku too, because he's pure. He's a pure Saiyan. They want a good fight. They want to fight. That's all they want, and that's his primal nature. And he's probably more pissed off that there's smaller and smaller number of Saiyans that he can't fight and challenge and kill, than to have people to hang out with and have friends and stuff because that's not Vegeta, and that's probably why he's more pissed off because he literally. And this goes into my next thing. You're like Goku's dead, and that means that he can't challenge him, and he should be honored that Goku he surpassed his greatest rival. No, why would he be that? He's a Saiyan. All he wants to do is fight. All he wants to do is fight Goku because Goku's the strongest Saiyan for one thing, and he's one of the only Saiyans left. He only wants to fight Goku. If there were other Saiyans like left, like that was the strongest team, like if Nappa had survived at some point and turned as strong as Vegeta, he probably would still be fighting Nappa. Like he'd probably challenge him a couple of times to duels and shit because that's he wants to fight. And that's the thing though. He watching his he because he's lesser than his pride and his proudness is he's to Goku. He's still less than Goku, and even to him, like if I knew that dead people were in heaven or wherever they are, the other world, and they were still walking around having fun, eating all the time and hanging out and shit and chilling, I would still think they're technically alive, even though like their spirits are technically alive. And Goku even comes down for a day, so where else is he gonna get an opportunity unless he kills himself to go to heaven and fight Goku? There's no other Saiyans until his son gets strong enough and old enough to fight, or Goten, or if he tries to fight Gohan, but I doubt he fights Gohan because I bet you Vegeta could destroy Gohan. Well, at least Gohan at this point, where the Majin Vegeta, point is. That's just saying. That's why I believe that Majin Vegeta does have motivation to be Majin Vegeta. He knows in his heart of heart that he's not evil, but he's a fighter. He wants to fight Goku. He cares nothing else. He just wants power. That's him, and he fights with that all the time. And only until the end of the Buu saga do we actually see Vegeta kind of start shedding his nature, his Saiyan nature, and give it to Goku as Goku's the strongest fighter, and he doesn't need to fight everybody. He doesn't need to fight other Saiyans, and it took him a long time to get there. And that's about it.
The next one is a huge blunder. So, Gohan goes to fight Majin Buu for a second time, and he gives this cool exchange of dialogue. Buu's like, "So hot shot, you wanna fight, Buu?" And Gohan's like, "Fight you? No, I wanna kill you." And then the fight proceeds, and all Gohan does is punch and kick Majin Buu a lot. So I'm thinking, if you want to kill someone, why aren't you going all out? Where's your motivation? Come on, Gohan. Goten told you that Chi-Chi and Videl died at the hands of Majin Buu, so why the heck are you going easy on this guy? Didn't you ever learn? When you fought Cell and you went easy on him at first, things didn't turn out so well because you ended up losing Trunks and Goku, and the Earth nearly got blown up. So why the heck are you going easy on Majin Buu, who's even stronger than Cell? I felt like this was bad writing on Toriyama's part. Why are you making Gohan stupid again? You would think after he lost his father to such a stupid blunder, he would have learned his lesson. But obviously Gohan can't learn, so what's the point in investing in such a character if he's just going to turn out to be a dud every time? You have to think about this. Put yourself in Gohan's position. If your girlfriend and your mother were killed at the hands of an evil monster, if I knew that, I'm going to nuke this guy with the biggest Kamehameha I can come up with as soon as I lay eyes on him. But no, all Gohan does is punch him and kick him and taunt him the whole fight. Why are you lobotomizing Gohan's character, making him a stupid idiot? This is just a complete waste of Gohan's character that you spent so much time building up.
Unmotivated Gohan. Okay, I have a lot of things to say about this. Unmotivated Gohan. So, Gohan basically teases Cell and fights him and beats him up a little bit, and then Cell blows himself up, kills his father, comes back, is really strong, and Vegeta goofed up. Vegeta. Gohan goofed up. Oh well. Gohan fights. He comes back as Mystic Gohan, probably his most intense, strongest state. Fights Majin Buu, but instead of all out destroying him, he can, he just fights him, kicks him, punches him a lot, even though he knows that his mother, his girlfriend, is dead. Okay. Now I am going to go ahead and it's really funny. Like I'm not dissing you by any means with this whole thing, but because you made it really funny, you made your whole video really funny, and this part was one of the funniest. Why are you making Gohan stupid twice? Well, he's not. The thing is though, and I'm going back to this, Saiyans are not like humans, and this is like the biggest divergence. Um, where Vegeta, when Trunks died, Cell killed Trunks, Vegeta just he even thought it all over in his head in the episode. He's like, he's like, he betrays the Saiyan race. He makes a mockery of our race, this and that, and then he says like, and he killed my son, my only son. He says all that, and then he attacks Cell. So to him, it was more intense. Even though the trigger was Trunks dying, or well, I think he died. Well, Trunks dying. He cared more about him basically making a mockery of the Saiyan race than his own son dying. He put that at the end, and then he attacked him. So that just shows what Saiyan's true, their true, their mindset is. Okay, Gohan turns into Super Saiyan 2. At Super Saiyan 2, you're supposed to be way more intense than Super Saiyan 1. And Goku, with Gohan, made Super Saiyan 1 kind of chill, like chillaxing a little bit. But Super Saiyan 2 is supposed to be really intense. You're supposed to be you're in your like Saiyan prime. You're prime you're pride of the litter. You know what I'm saying? You're strong. You're mean. All you're thinking about is fighting. That's what it is. Gohan does it. The Gohan wasn't Super Saiyan 2. And that's the whole point. He beats around Cell. He doesn't want to kill him. He wants to make him suffer. He wants to fight him. He wants to humiliate him. And that's the thing, though. He's a Saiyan. That even though he's a half Saiyan, it's bringing up. And Gohan, and I'm going to go into a little bit more into this next. But Gohan has a lot more power reserves than most of the Z fighters, as becoming Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and Mystic Gohan, and then when he was a Namek. So this means that at Super Saiyan 2, Gohan does not care about anything else. He's more into it. And then just until his father dies does he realize that his human side takes over, and he's like, fuck, I fucked up. Okay. He comes back as Mystic Gohan. I can only assume Mystic Gohan is Super Saiyan is Gohan with all his strength, everything he has unleashed. So I can only assume that Gohan is way 10 times strong, way 10 times more Saiyan-like than he was at Super Saiyan 2, and maybe even closer to Super Saiyan 3. So when Gohan comes down, he wants to beat the shit out of Majin Buu. He wants to humiliate him again. He doesn't learn. He probably is not even thinking about Cell at all. He doesn't even think about Cell. He barely gives a thought of, oh, Chi-Chi died. Oh no, that's not Gohan's voice. Chi-Chi died. Videl died. Oh, and without Dead Day, we can't wish them back. Well, I'm going to kill you, well, that's not exactly what he says, but he walks up to Boo, basically like that. He kind of just puts him on the back burner. He's like, puts that thought on the back burner. So I doubt that at that point in time, he's even thinking about his fight with Cell. He's thinking about freaking Gohan, or Boo killing his family, or killing all his friends and family, and what he's going to do to Boo because he's now super. That's basically it. He's in his true Saiyan state of mind where he's only cares about fighting, humiliating the other person, beating them. Evil thoughts, just like Vegeta used to, and Vegeta wrestled with all the time. So that's my unmotivated Gohan, more like super motivated Saiyan Gohan is more like it.
Speaking of a waste of Gohan's character, how many freaking times did he have his hidden power unlocked? So Guru unlocks his hidden power, and that's supposed to be his potential unlock. So he becomes Super Saiyan 2, and that's supposed to be his hidden potential unlocked. Then Elder Kai unlocks his potential another time. How many freaking potentials does this guy have? Make up your freaking mind, Toriyama! Did you even try? I just thought that this was an overused plot device that was just... what can I say?
Gohan's hidden power. That's the next thing you were talking about. Gohan's hidden power. He gets how many powers does Gohan have hidden altogether? Like that's what you said. So Gohan gets his power unleashed. What in the Frieza saga, Guru, he unleashes some of his power. He even says it. I've released some of your power. The rest is up to you. And then he's able to go toe to toe with Frieza for like 2 minutes, and then he stops. He unleashes his power, his true power again, because because they know that he's really strong and he's got super mass power reserves, and he turns into Super Saiyan 2. So Okay, so Super Saiyan 2, I wouldn't even call it as a hidden power. I would say like the first one was hidden. The Super Saiyan 2 isn't hidden. Super Saiyan 2 is something that they all can do, but Gohan, because he has a hidden power supply, because he's apparently half Saiyans and half Super Saiyans are really strong. So he has that hidden power, and this is gonna go into something a little later. But he has a hidden power supply, so yeah, he has a hidden power supply, and now he can turn into Super Saiyan 2, no problem. And that's what he did. Even it was almost the same transformation as somebody turning into Super Saiyan 1. So you have that. Now, Mystic Gohan is completely different. Mystic Gohan is basically the first little bit that Guru unlocked. Mystic Gohan is that the Supreme Elder Kai, he unleashed everything he had, even though he didn't last very long. But he unleashed everything he had. So there's nothing else after Mystic Gohan. There's no more Mystic 2 Gohan, Mystic 3 Gohan. There's just Mystic Gohan, and Mystic Gohan is Gohan at his best with all his power unleashed. This and that. That is basically it. So when you say Gohan has so many hidden powers. He only got a little bit of his power unleashed in the Namek series or season. He because he had that massive power reserve, he was able to go into Super Saiyan 2 faster than everybody else because humans and Saiyans are strong and are stronger than or a bit stronger than Saiyans normal. And then Mystic Gohan, he got unleashed because of the Elder Kai. So that's my reasoning to why Gohan has so many powers. He doesn't really have so many powers. He's got one huge power, but he didn't get it unleashed all the way until the Buu Saga, all the way. And that's basically my rebuttal for that.
The next problem I had was what Vegeta calls the Super Saiyan bargain sale. So, Kid Goten, Kid Trunks are able to become Super Saiyan. For what reason? I don't know. Bad writing on Toriyama's part? Sure. Now, a lot of fans like to give the explanation that, well, Goten and Trunks have the ability to go Super Saiyan as kids because they inherited it from their fathers, and their fathers were able to go Super Saiyan, and they were born after their fathers, or rather they were conceived after their fathers attained Super Saiyan ability, and that's why they have it. Now, first of all, I think that's a load of crap, and let me address that right now. Future Trunks wasn't born with the ability to go Super Saiyan. He had to actually work at it, and that's why he became a Super Saiyan after witnessing Gohan's death after Gohan had died at the hands of the androids. So, I have no reason to believe that present Trunks is different than future Trunks in terms of when they were born relative to their father's ability to become Super Saiyan. Basically, if future Trunks was born before his father could become Super Saiyan, then I have no reason to believe that present Trunks was born before his father could become Super Saiyan, especially when we see baby Trunks in the Android Saga. So, if we really want to get technical with the timelines here, future Trunks and present Trunks' timeline don't divulge at when their father became a Super Saiyan. Their timelines diverge at the death of Goku. So, the explanation that they were inherited the trait of Super Saiyan is complete crap, and I just debunked it. But let me just throw this theory in the grave for a second time just to make sure it's fully buried. If you can inherit Super Saiyan, then why was there only one Super Saiyan every millennia in the Dragon Ball Z franchise? Wouldn't you think that that legendary Super Saiyan millennia ago would have made it and produced more Super Saiyan babies who would have produced even more Super Saiyan babies, and thus and so? You would think that you would have a whole planet full of kid Super Saiyans if you could inherit the Super Saiyan trait, because traits don't just die out like that. They propagate throughout a species whenever an individual mates. So I felt like this explanation that, oh, the kids became Super Saiyan because they inherited is just weak, and it excuses Toriyama's bad writing. Let me tell you what I really think is the real reason that the kids could go Super Saiyan, because Toriyama sucked at writing and he ran out of ideas, and he didn't take the time to develop the characters of Goten and Trunks. When you think about it, the ability to become Super Saiyan for every other character was a major point of plot development. Think about it. Goku became Super Saiyan after realizing the death of Krillin and realizing that although he's kind-hearted and gentle, sometimes he just has to get downright dirty in a fight. And it was that inner rage coupled with his willingness to do it whatever it took to take down Frieza that led to him finally transforming to Super Saiyan. Vegeta had a whole host of issues of competition with Goku, of self-hatred, of wanting to be the best, that pushed him over the edge. Gohan became Super Saiyan because he realized that he was tired of being useless in a fight. He wanted to actually stop his friends from dying, and he had seen enough bloodshed and wanted it to end. Trunks became Super Saiyan because he witnessed Gohan's death and he finally decided enough was enough. I'm going to take out these freaking androids. A great plot development surrounding the Super Saiyan transformations. When you get to Kid Goten and Kid Trunks, you see absolutely none of that, and I think it's because Toriyama didn't care enough to advance their characters and to evolve the plot, so he just left it at they can become Super Saiyan just cuz. I remember in the good old days, Super Saiyan was something you had to earn, not something that was put there just because you're a Saiyan and you're a main character. So I thought that that was a really weak point. Toriyama, did you even try to write a good story here?
Now, the Super Saiyan bargain sale, as Vegeta says it. You said that every Super Saiyan had to go through a trial before every Saiyan had to go through a trial before they became Super Saiyan. And then go to Kid Goten and Kid Trunks, they basically had to do nothing and they could just become Super Saiyan. What I believe this to be is, and more or less, is that it's not that they, and then you talked about, how in the movie Kid Trunks turns into Super Saiyan only after watching his Gohan die, which is another, and he couldn't do it before. The only thing I have to say to this is that Kid Goten and Kid Trunks, I believe, and I do believe this, that humans and Saiyans mixed together are a lot stronger, have more energy than Super Saiyans, just by themselves, pure Saiyans. So mutts have more energy than purebreds. And, I mean, that makes no real sense, except for the Dragon Ball Z universe, but I mean, you can see it in Gohan. Gohan had a lot of energy backed up, and he became Mystic Gohan. It is possible that Goten could become Mystic Goten. Trunks at some point could become Mystic Trunks because they have a lot of energy. With all that energy, even Gohan he was a kid, and he still became a Super Saiyan. So with all that, and he was a kid, and became Super Saiyan 2. So with all that energy mixed together, you can with all that they have, because they're half Saiyan, half human. It wouldn't be out of this world to assume that because they're little kids and they have so much more energy because they're kids, and because they have energy because they're half and half, that they can become Super Saiyans at a relatively young age. Even though both of them had to have they both had to get beaten up pretty bad for them to actually even transform into Super Saiyans. Now, going into why Future Trunks as a kid couldn't transform into a Super Saiyan, it could be so many things. It could be that because everybody else died, everybody else was killed, that, and the world was destroyed, and, all that, he probably he probably was malnourished or something. He probably didn't get enough to eat. I mean, he was always training with Gohan, but Gohan probably had some traumatic experience happen to him before he became Super Saiyan. So he probably told and explained to Trunks the exact same thing. So Trunks probably thought of it out of his head that he could never become Super Saiyan, as a point to that Kid Trunks and Kid Goten became Super Saiyan just like that. That they, because they never got it out of their head that they couldn't, or why they couldn't. They just became it because that's all the energy they had, and they lived really good lives, as opposed to Future Trunks as a kid, where he was in like a horrible third world country type of life where he was malnourished and stuff. So that's the only thing I have to say about the Super Saiyan bargain sale.
I thought that this was an overused plot device. The whole please transform even though it's going to kick my butt. And I feel like seeing this too much is just a sign of repetitive and bad writing. You see this about 4 times in the series. Vegeta begs Frieza to transform, Frieza obliges, Frieza pwns Vegeta. Vegeta begs Cell to transform, Cell obliges, Cell ends up pwning Vegeta. Now you would think that after Vegeta died at the hands of Frieza, a being who could transform, that he would have post-traumatic stress disorder and hate anything that transforms. You would think that after Cell used the word transform, that Frieza would be like, transform! No! Final Flash! And that would be the end of it, right? But that's in a series where good writing actually takes place. But if that's not enough for you, Vegeta ends up doing it again by making Majin Buu transform and getting the crap beat out of him. Why can't Vegeta learn? Don't let your opponents transform. Oh, and just to make matters worse, even Cell makes the same mistake by forcing Gohan to transform, which results in his death. Like I said, they should have called this show Transformers, because all the show is about is forcing people to transform the most amount of times, and that's who wins a fight. I think it's a stupid contrivance, I think it's overused, and I think the series could have been so much better.
Doesn't anybody learn? Because you said this because you wait for them to transform and then you want to fight them. Vegeta does this to Cell. Cell does this to Gohan. Vegeta does it again. Vegeta does it a couple times actually too. He does it to Frieza. He does it. I think he does it to. No, nobody does it to. Well, I guess Gohan kind of does it to Boo by not destroying him right away. He lets him absorb the other guys, but he doesn't actually goad him into it. So only a couple characters have done this before, and I don't think none of them have been Goku. So what I'm saying with this is that the reason that this happens is because I'm going back to their Saiyans. Saiyans only care about fighting, and they don't learn. They're like maybe they're like pit bulls. They just don't learn. They just want to fight. Well, pit bulls don't always just want to fight, but they're just strong and they have strength, and they just want to, they just want to get at it. And they don't think things through, and they probably never learned their lesson, which is obvious by everything that has happened. They don't learn their lesson, and that's it. They just want to fight. As Goku just wants to fight, he wants to have fun, and I'm gonna get to that in a little bit. But that's what I'm saying is that even and Cell, he had two Saiyans in him, I believe, just Goku and Vegeta. So he had two Saiyans in him. So he had the exact same thing. He wanted to see Gohan transform so he can fight him. And I mean, it's used up plot line. You can say it's bad writing, but it is part of their Saiyan code. I mean, I wouldn't think of a Saiyan acting any other way besides wanting to test his mettle, which Goku even does too, by letting well, he sort of does it by letting Fabu. He doesn't kill Fabu with Super Saiyan 3, and even though he says he lets Gohan fight him, I believe deep down in his heart he knew that they couldn't defeat him, and he had to come back and eventually fight him again, and he wanted to get another crack at Buu at some point, or something. I don't know, but I'm just gonna go with the rebuttal for that is their Saiyans.
Goku's stupidity. So a Super Saiyan Trunks comes back in time to warn Goku and the others about the androids, and Trunks admits that even though he was a Super Saiyan, the androids were able to beat him. Goku is a Super Saiyan at this point, so you would think that logic would imply that Goku would be looking for the next Super Saiyan transformation or to ascend to the next level if he learned that these androids could even beat a Super Saiyan. But what does he do? He sits on his butt and chillaxes with Gohan and Piccolo, taking it easy. If I knew that someone could kill a Super Saiyan, and I was a Super Saiyan, you know what I would have done? I would have taken Gohan, gone in the hyperbolic time chamber, and pushed for the next level immediately, rather than waste freaking time at driving school. Well, I know that episode was filler, but I just felt the need to mention it because I thought it was absolute garbage. Piccolo in a baseball cap? Come on. That's like having an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where a Kaiba wears a hoodie and is in a rap concert. But I digress. The single biggest problem that I had with Dragon Ball Z was the fact that your beloved protagonist, Goku, is supposed to be a hero, but all he ever does is get other people freaking killed. He is the absolute worst protagonist that I have ever seen in a franchise, and if I didn't know any better, I would say that Goku is actually a villain. Goku is sick and sadistic, and Goku has endangered more lives than I care to remember, and to be perfectly honest with you, Goku is literally responsible for the death of his own family on multiple occasions. So, let me just get straight to the point. When Goku is warned by Trunks of the androids, and Trunks goes back to his own future, Goku and the Z-Fighters discuss strategy of how to deal with the androids. They discuss going to train and when to prepare for the androids and all of that. And Krillin, one of the weakest characters, one of the seemingly most useless characters in the show, makes the smartest and best explanation and advice that I've ever heard in that show.
Moving on. Goku is an idiot because Goku doesn't take anybody's advice seriously. He doesn't he doesn't he doesn't with the whole that you said that the actual Krillin says let's ask the dragon to wish for the knowledge of where the androids are placed right now, and they're gonna go destroy them. And Goku never really learns from his mistakes or anything like that. Yeah, and this is going back to that they're Saiyans. They're not the smartest types out there. All they care about is fighting, and all they can see is forward. They can't see side to side. They can't see back, especially not back. So even though that Krillin had made a valid point, Goku probably thought that he could destroy them, or he could fight them, or he just wanted to fight them. I don't know. But maybe he thought that it would be different or something. I don't know because Trunks changed the timeline. I mean, it's far fetched. It's a stretch for Goku, but I mean, it could be possible. And Goku is stupid. He said it on multiple occasions. He can't even pass a driving test. Obviously from that episode where he's trying to pass a driving test, which doesn't really take too much smarts, but there you go. He's not the brightest crayon, and he lets all his enemies go. He's really nice. He's friendly, but he always lets them go. He also lets them live. He doesn't learn from his mistakes. So yeah, Goku is an idiot. I agree with you, and it should be knowledge to everybody, even from Dragon Ball. So I don't understand why this would be something that kills Dragon Ball Z, even though it's one of those things that isn't Dragon Ball Z. That's why he had Bulma in Dragon Ball. Even in Dragon Ball, that's why he had Bulma in Dragon Ball. In Dragon Ball Z, he had the smarter Z fighters. He had Gohan. Krillin was smarter. Even though he didn't take their advice, he didn't. I guess without if he would have just destroyed the androids, then there would have been no series.
Krillin says, why don't we just, and read this in the manga, this did happen. Krillin says, why don't we just use the Dragon Balls to ask Shenron for the location of the androids so we can go preemptively destroy them so that we can save lives and not have any bloodshed. And Vegeta says, if you try that, I will kill you because I want somebody to fight. And Goku says, yeah, I want a chance to fight the androids too. And Bulma goes, are you crazy? You're endangering human lives. And Goku just laughs it off like Bulma's just a stupid dummy for opening her mouth. When I'm thinking, Goku, you're supposed to be the protector and hero of the Earth. Why do you only want to fight? Why don't you care about preventing bloodshed? You hate people being killed. You hate lives being lost so much. Well, start by actually being useful in saving lives. But the fact that Goku let the androids be free means that he cares more about having fun than actually saving lives. So Goku's not actually a hero. He's a villain. Because when you think about it, Goku is responsible for almost every major death and genocide that took place in Dragon Ball Z. Think about it. It's Goku's fault that the androids were released because he ignored Krillin's advice. So because it's Goku's fault that the androids were released, it's Goku's fault that Cell became complete. And because it's Goku's fault that Cell became complete, it's Goku's fault that future Trunks died. It's Goku's fault that Majin Buu was able to become released as well. Goku's always procrastinating and dragging his feet. I want you to really think about this. Babidi said that they collect energy from the fights to release Majin Buu. So, why did Goku waste time fighting Majin Vegeta? If I were Goku, I would have gone Super Saiyan 3 immediately and hit him so hard in the stomach it knocked him out and then blasted Babidi to smithereens. But what does Goku do? He drags the fight on with Vegeta, allowing the release of Majin Buu, which results in... So what it means is that every death at the hands of Majin Buu was literally Goku's fault. Every death at the hands of Perfect Cell was literally Goku's fault. And to be honest with you, it's Goku's fault that Cell even exists. Because Cell was based on the DNA of Piccolo, Vegeta, Frieza, and Goku. Well, guess what? If you remove the source of DNA, then Cell wouldn't be able to exist. Frieza went easy on Goku back on... Goku went easy on Frieza back on planet Namek, resulting in Frieza making it to Earth, where Gero could get Frieza's DNA and clone Cell from Frieza's DNA. Well, guess what? If Goku had done what he was supposed to do and eliminated Frieza back on planet Namek, then Cell wouldn't exist. So literally, the deaths of 2/3 of the show are Goku's fault. A good protagonist? I think not. And to add icing on the cake, in his fight with Majin Buu and his fight with Fat Buu, he throws Majin Buu through a skyscraper. Boy, I wonder how many people he killed in that process. Goku sucks, and he ruined Dragon Ball Z, and Goku sucks.
Lastly, Goku is evil. Okay, with this one, I'm a little bit torn because everything you said about Goku basically everything that happened, all the destruction, all the deaths that happened in Dragon Ball Z were at Goku's hands because he went easy on Frieza. Frieza survived, came to Earth. Um, Dr. Gero got the cells from Frieza made Cell. Goku unleashed Majin Buu because he fought Vegeta. Goku's not really a hero; he's a villain because all he wants to do is have fun. He's more important. He's more to having fun and fighting. Yes, yes, you hit the nail on the head. Goku is a hero, but more a hero of circumstance because he's the strongest character on the show. But he always puts fighting. He put fighting in front of his own family. He trained at the end of the series. He trains Boo. He just takes off with him. He's like, all right, I'm gonna train Boo. I mean Oob at the end of the series, and then that's that. Bye Chi Chi. You don't see me. He puts everything in front of his family. He dies. He stays in. I mean he dies, but he doesn't. He doesn't want them to wish him back. He wants to fight. He wants to have fun. He's more to having fun and fighting and testing himself than he is to being a hero. I mean, he hates killing. He's a good guy. Obviously, he hates killing. He hates people dying. That's true, but that doesn't mean he's like a superhero. Like he's not like Superman. He's got his flaws, and his biggest flaw is that he wants to fight. His biggest flaw is his biggest Saiyan trait that is in him, is in Vegeta, is in Gohan. That they all just want to fight. They all think about themselves, and that's about it. Besides Gohan, for the latter, only when he transforms into Super Saiyans. But that's all they want, and that's all they want to do, and that's part of their Saiyan. And without that, then he wouldn't be a Saiyan. He would just be a human, and that would have been a very boring show because they would have came up with very smart and articulated answers and responses to every problem that they had, and they wouldn't have to worry about anything. So yeah, Goku. I'm not saying. I would say I would say almost all of the things that happened on the show were partly his fault, but he does save. He does. He makes mistakes because he has that human element to him. He's not perfect, but that's the thing. He goes through it, and he ultimately he's better for it. I mean, he learns at some point that he's got he's got to like the hero of Earth thing go. I bet you he never even wanted to be the hero of Earth. He just wants to fight. He only wants to go to martial arts tournament. He just got that title placed on him. So Goku verdict is not evil. Goku just makes a lot of horrendous mistakes that cost the lives of almost the entire planet. So that's about it. But he always cleans up his mess. And it's not his fault. It's not like he created Cell. It's not like he created. I mean, it is his fault. It is sort of his fault he created Cell, but he didn't actually create Cell. He didn't actually create Boo. He didn't actually be buddy with Frieza. He actually tried to save Frieza. He tried to save Vegeta. I mean, he did save Vegeta. So he's not evil. Verdict: he is not evil. And that's basically it. Those are the 15 things that you said that killed Dragon Ball Z. For me, those are I rebutted to all of them. And that's that for the video. Man of Christ 101. I hope you watch this and let me know what you think in the comments. Basically, this video is a rebuttal to your video, and I know some of them seemed a little bit far-fetched out there for you. I mean, especially and they mostly seem coming from a DBZ fanboy, but yeah, and I'm gonna put the link up here in a second, or it should be up here already, and yeah, that's Jetzu signing out.